Kelly Camper present.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you being here. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Commissioner Prince for the proclamation.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this morning. As we all know, on September 3rd, 2017, our community suffered a tremendous tragedy when Ben and Weldon Rusher lost their lives in a pond in Custer County. They were out having a social event with some friends. Weldon didn't surface from swimming in a pond. Ben, without any regard for his own safety, selfishly, heroically attempted to save his brother. Unfortunately, we lost both young men that night, and our community has grieved ever since. As a result of Ben's bravery, the county felt that it would be appropriate to name today, January 31st, 2018, as Ben Rusher Day, to honor his heroism and his devotion to our community. At this time, if I could ask his parents, John and Elin, to meet me in the open space over here, I'd like to read the proclamation. Proclamation from the county, Custer County, Colorado, proclamation dated January 31st, 2018, declaring that day Ben Rusher Day. Whereas Custer County recognizes that on the night of September 3rd, 2017, Ben Rusher, without regard for his own safety, did give his life trying to save his brother, Weldon Rusher. And whereas Ben Rusher was a lifelong resident of Custer County, and whereas Ben Rusher was well known by and a friend to a great number of the residents of Custer County, and whereas Ben Rusher's family is deeply rooted in the Custer County community, and whereas Custer County would like to honor Ben Rusher for his selfless act of love and bravery. Now therefore the Board of County Commissioners of Custer County, Colorado, declare today, January 31st, 2018, as Ben Rusher Day, signed and adopted on the 10th day of January, 2018, signed by Chairman Tommy G. Flower, Vice Chair William R. Kander, Commissioner J. Prince, and attested to by Kelly Camper, Clerk and Recorder. You notice that our flag is at half-mast today. It would have been anyway because of the tragedy we had with a deputy that was slain just recently. If not, we would have lowered it today in honor of Ben. Another plaque for you.
No, they're with us. They're with us. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
I'd like to thank the Board of County Commissioners and everybody else that supported us and continues to. There's a lot of people give their lives for others, war and other places. Fortunately, these boys were all intact and they were here at home. And this is a great recognition from this county to these boys, and I thank you very much.
Well said.
We'll stand in recess for about 10 minutes.
If we close it.
What's that? Yeah, you know what, just mute it.
Yeah, just muted.
That's all right.
And we were supposed to, ask, flag or something to put it up, but I think we did.
Right?
Every day.
Thank you so much.
I can't see it. And it may be even some of that's over. But I was a jury. Hey, thank you. Sorry. No, it's all right.
Get this crowd cleared out of here.
I don't have a whole lot going on. Check to pay the bill, good move, I thought.
Oh, good. All of them around, yeah, school bus, Amazing. With this rule, good to see you, John. You take care.
Yeah, I think I'll do that for everybody. It did not mute, just FYI.
Yeah, every time I mute it,
County Commissioners meeting back. Next item of
Yes.
business is amendments to the agenda, gentlemen.
I do not have any.
None.
Nor do I.
None here.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the minutes of January 24th. You gentlemen have had an opportunity to read those.
I did, and I'll move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting, January the 24th.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 24th meeting. Any further discussion, corrections, or additions? Hearing none, vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The minutes of January 24th have been approved. Audience introductions.
Vernon Roth, IT.
Ben Wardlaw, interested citizen.
I got a short one, unless Jay, you were going to speak. Did you have something?
I'll go ahead.
I got a real short one since the last meeting. Been working with Gary Hyde on the road and bridge stuff, looking at a few things. One of prime interest is the culvert over Hermit. And last time we all met, it was an issue because of the time it's going to be shut down. And what are our options with the DOT and the DOLA grants and all that? Gary had a meeting yesterday, and we'll have to. We'll have an agenda item here as soon as he and I get back together. But it looks like it's going to be almost impossible to deal with a DOT and a DOLA grant together. By the time you comply with all the restrictions and time, it's going to take 5 weeks and $320,000, which is crazy, and a right-of-way amendment apparently because it's too narrow. So it's just going to be too hard. It's going to be probably a decision we'll make to try to do it ourselves, hire a contractor, and it's going to cost a little more, but it's still within budget. We'll come back with the data on that. All right.
Mr. Prince.
Just a couple small items. Obviously, all three of us attended the economic development meeting a couple days ago. I think it was Monday, which I thought was very informative. Tom and I went to Canyon yesterday for the affordable housing meeting that Upper Arkansas Council of Governments put on. They reported to us that the grant for the study on affordable housing they have in hand, and there are multiple counties involved. Tom and I represented Custer County, of course, and there were several others present and several on the phone. Money will be coming to do a study to determine the needs of affordable housing. Why this is important is because that study is necessary for any developer who wants to come in and build affordable housing. They do that to earn tax credits, aside from being good neighbors of the community who want to help people. But the tax credits, they need a study to show that there's a need within the community to apply for those. So there's an altruistic aspect to this from the developers, but it's a very important aspect. The county previously committed when this grant was asked for from DOLA. The county at the time said that we would participate. There'll be some economic investment that the county will make into this when the time comes. It will not be huge. I think all of the counties will match the $30,000. Tom and I talked about maybe talking with Westcliff and Silvercliff, see if they wanted to be part of that to keep our costs down. We have two things I just want to remind us of. We have a workshop on February 5th. Dennis Hunt will be coming. Dennis Hunt is one of the most intelligent people I know about commissionering, if that's the word. He'll come. It's a workshop, so it's open to anybody. And Dennis, I've had him down. I don't mean I. the Board of County Commissioners asked him to speak to us multiple times. He's just a tremendous amount of information. He helped us with the budgeting process, and he's great on this. So he'll be here on February 5th. And also on February 6th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Affordable Housing Committee, the local one, will be meeting, and I'll be attending that. That's all I have, Commissioner.
What time is that? Affordable housing, 2 o'clock? Okay.
Questions?
When's the 5th, the commission workshop, Jay?
The commission is, it's 10 o'clock, it'll be in our commissioner room.
What are those, did you say 4 counties for the?
I believe is it 6 total?
There's 6 total.
That's what I thought.
3 have already started their housing assessment studies, so they have not indicated whether they are going to be totally inclusive in this new study or not, so we're waiting to find out. But Teller, Park, Chaffee, Custer, Fremont, and did I say Teller?
Teller, Park, Chaffee, Custer.
Fremont.
Where's that meeting gonna be held?
Which meeting are we talking about?
The affordable housing.
It'll be in the commissioner's room. The
That-
commissioner's room.
that's
That's
all.
all.
Is that open to the public?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we do is open to the public. You're welcome. Please do come.
February the 6th.
Right.
2 o'clock.
So that was 5, I don't suppose you did like.
Was it not worth
Chafee,
it?
did you say?
I don't
Chafee?
remember. I can
Chaffee, is that on your list?
Teller, Park, Chaffee, Custer, Fremont. Not Elkhart.
No.
Lake? Is Lake?
Park.
Lake.
Or Lake.
It was
Yeah,
Lake.
Lake.
It was Lake.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Lake County, thank you.
Yeah, Lake. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 of those counties were represented at the meeting that Jay spoke about, and the other 2 were not there, so I kind of lost track of. I would guess probably 4 or 5 of those counties would end up being involved, but
Yeah.
we'll find out. Okay, anything else, sir?
While we're on that subject, can I just talk about affordable housing for a second? Because we have a very short agenda. The issue with affordable housing is not that we want to get people without money to move here. The sheriff's office just tried to hire 2 deputies. They cannot find a place to live that they can afford based on their salary. We have a tremendous issue with teachers, the same thing. We try and hire teachers, they come, they fall in love with the valley, and they go to try to find a house. And it's a major issue. So affordable housing is not just to take care of low-income people. There's a tremendous need within the community to have housing that workers could come to in any industry we have so that they can afford to live here. So I just want to make that clear that it's not like we're welcoming, the people under a bridge. That is not the goal, and I'm not saying we wouldn't do that if they came. I can imagine what the headline will say tomorrow, but that's really my emphasis, is to get, so if we have workers here, we can find a place for them to stay at a reasonable cost. Thank you.
Maybe I was not listening, maybe I misunderstood. That DOLA grant for this housing assessment study was a $60,000 grant.
Correct. And it was
I thought,
50-50
did you
match.
say that DOLA was putting up 30 grand?
Correct,
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
50-50
Yeah,
match.
50-50 match. Okay, anything else, sir?
I'm good.
Since our last meeting, I attended the Legislative Steering Committee meetings from CCI up in Denver on the 25th and this meeting at 11 o'clock. We have not a retirement, but going away social for Joe McCarthy over in the sheriff's office. So hopefully we can slip over there. I think our meeting will be done in plenty of time for that. And then our courthouse security meeting is at 1:30 for that steering committee. I think we'll meet here in the courtroom for that.
1:30?
1:30, yeah. Yes. And then tomorrow I will be attending a Homeland Security Advisory Committee meeting in Pueblo. That runs from 8:30 to noon. And so I think that's basically what I've got to report to the board. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay. Attorney items.
Just one thing, on Monday, right after our workshop, I met with the sheriff. At his request, he had a legal question that was perplexing him regarding handling a foreclosure sale. He's charged by statute with doing foreclosure sales for property. So I met with him to try to get a handle on what the issue was, and I did research for a couple of hours and gave him my legal opinion about the particular case. And he communicated that with the attorney that was handling the foreclosure. I saw the sheriff last night at the Trails for All get together at Aldenburg Westcliff. He said that the attorney had accepted my legal opinion on it and that everything was good. So I think that issue was resolved. And the Trails for All meeting last night, by the way, I'm on the steering committee for Trails for All, and I think that was a huge success last night. We had a turnout of probably close to 100 people, and a lot of interest from the public. I was supposed to be manning a table for ATV trails, and I couldn't get to the table. Everybody else was around it making, but Larry Weber was there handling it, so I didn't feel like I got left out. But it was a big success, and I think Trails for All is going to be an asset for the community.
Good. Yeah, I failed to mention I attended that meeting as well, and we had voted to expend some dollars on that to help them with their rental. And I would guess probably from the looks of it, they were expecting maybe 30 people, 40 people. They had 30 chairs set up initially, and that got overwhelmed. And it was actually standing room only. There were people standing in the back. So I think everybody was pleasantly surprised with the turnout. And they thanked us for our monetary contribution for that publicly too. So I apologize for not.
There was enough to eat.
Reporting that. Well, they kind of ran out of food. They probably
were
at
not
least
expecting that.
twice as many people attended as I think that they were hoping for, let alone expecting. But they were very pleased. Paul Parsons, who of course made a presentation to the commissioners at our last meeting, opened the meeting, did an outstanding job, very, very well spoken, and they talked about the 6 different users that they were really targeting: bicyclers, hikers, foot traffic, whether it be snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or hiking, and identified some trails that are in existence, and then they had a kind of a audience participation time where they went to a map and indicated where they'd like to see trails, whether they thought the trails were adequate, needed work, should be abandoned or whatever. So it was a good function. Administrative assistant items.
Okay, I have one thing. Terry Munson from the What Mountain Fire Protection District called me, and you remember when we signed the IGA for the use of the not hangar, but whatever it is down at the airport.
Building.
Yes. They had a meeting, I guess, and they wanted to add a couple of things, so they just wanted to add a page, but one of them was about bathroom use. Bathroom use? Oh. And the other one, what did I tell you about? About no one outside of using the outside of What Mountain Fire Protection District using the vehicles that they have down there.
Yeah.
So
Darn, I was looking forward to that.
and she had emailed it to me, but the email didn't come through. So I'm still waiting on those documents, and as soon as I get them, I will forward them to you, and I'll forward them to you as well.
Okay. We'll have some discussion. Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say one quick little thing?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Is that all?
That's it.
You have?
That's all I have.
All right. Good. Yes, sir.
Okay. As far as bathroom facilities, there is bathroom facilities right there at the garage.
And that door, it goes from the garage directly into the bathroom, so that door's unlocked. Okay, good.
I think they just wanted to make sure they were able to use it.
Oh, open the door.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure they even knew what the location of that bathroom was.
or that there was one. Maybe.
Yeah, they won't, typically they wouldn't be going down the hallway and using the bathroom where the shower is. They could access that bathroom right off of the bays.
Well, they asked me one time for a, quick tour, and nobody ever showed up. So.
Okay. Great. I'll take this opportunity to welcome the new chairman of the advisory committee for the airport, Mr. Butler. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that we will get that IGA back from the fire department, and then if you gentlemen do not have a problem with accessing the bathroom off of the bays, then I wouldn't see there be any reason why we couldn't re-sign that IGA. We'll have a motion to that effect when the time comes, but I wanted your input on that to see what you thought.
Right, well, they can use that one, it's fully functional, and would not have to be issuing another key.
Right.
For the doors.
And that's a unisex bathroom, correct? There's not two male, female, there's one
No, it's
bathroom.
just one, yes.
What's the lot? Doors have a lot.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. So we will get with the fire department and get that IGA back probably at February 5th or 6th meeting, or 6th or 7th meeting. Anything else, Miss Brenda?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to old business. We have Eaton Sales on our agenda to talk about the dispenser, the fuel dispenser down at the airport. I don't believe that gentleman's here, because I think we know everybody.
Hopefully he's not.
We'll get a sergeant at arms to check it out and see. That'd be awkward, wouldn't it?
Sitting in there.
Have you gentlemen talked to them? Do you know where they plan on being here today, or?
Clint was the one that was dealing with
Yeah.
it, so.
They have not communicated with me since last July.
Okay. No.
I didn't see any of them in the building.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
He's
if
going to
they.
be here at 10 is what I told him.
Oh,
so.
okay. All right. Well, we'll roll that down then,
Come back.
and we can come back to that later on. Thank you. Any other old business, gentlemen, come before the group? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Let me back. Well, we haven't decided anything, so there will be public comment if the Eaton sales rep shows up today. Review the vouchers and sign the checks. Gentlemen, have you had an opportunity to look at that list of the vouchers? Okay.
Yeah.
As did I. I had a question or two and talked with Donna yesterday and got those cleared up. It was just my lack of understanding. I don't even remember now exactly what they were, but I did go through those, and Chair would entertain a motion to approve those vouchers.
Also move to approve the vouchers.
Okay, I'll second that. Moved and seconded to approve the vouchers for January. Discussion?
Looked normal to me.
Okay, hearing none. Proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Sorry, let me vote aye. Opposed nay. Motion carries. I will initial these. And Brenda, do you want to take these over to Donna? Okay. Public comment? Anything on anybody's mind this morning? We've got plenty of time.
I was wondering, when did I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, that the agricultural production of marijuana in Custer County is prohibited. Is that true or false?
That is true.
That is true, and it wouldn't be necessarily agricultural production, but any marijuana grown in Custer County.
Well,
Go ahead.
if I may, I think their state statute says that a person can grow up to
Yeah, I was going to say, except
6 plants or something. But as far as agricultural grow, it is outlawed in all of Custer County and both towns.
And did any of you vote for that?
Excuse me, sir.
Did any of you on the commission vote for that law?
It's never been brought to a vote to.
It's an ordinance, and that was done several years ago.
That was done in 2016.
I think it was before that.
before
It
then.
seems like we're interested in, industry and development in this county, and we've got a law in the state of Colorado that legalized marijuana. It seems like we wouldn't want to discourage the production of it in our county, which would produce jobs here.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
On two different occasions in years past, same question came on election ballots. And it was overwhelmingly voted down twice by the people of the county. And so when it came up for where the commissioners could opt out, so to speak, of any production in the county based on the new marijuana law, the commissioners had already had a mandate twice. Not this commission, but whereas the one before. And so it's illegal for any production of marijuana in the county for commercial purposes, no production, manufacture, sales. It covers it all.
If you have a medical authorization, then I think you can grow up to 6 months.
Usually 6 months.
Well, at that time, medical allowed 6 plants. And we know the legislature has revisited that now. It used to be people could get away with about 99 plants, but the legislature has cut that down also now for personal use. So,
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Thank you. This question has come up before the board multiple times with the previous commission, and we had the sheriff involved with the 99 plant versus 6 plants. And we learned that legally we can opt out of the 99, but we can't opt out of the, and I'm not sure if it's 6 or 8, it's just a minimal amount. I will not speak for anybody else in this room, I'll speak for myself. I'm adamantly opposed to any form of marijuana in this county. I think it brings the wrong element, it invites the wrong element, the wrong element uses it. We've had enough illegal grows hidden in our mountains around here, and our sheriff has been successful in capturing some of these people and bringing them to justice. Most of them are lost, and this is just not what Custer County, and this is my personal opinion, this is just not what Custer County is.
Can I ask one other question? This hasn't got anything to do with marijuana. The commission has 3 districts, right?
Correct.
Is that right? Now, do you have to live in the district that you run?
Yes.
For? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And who does Bull Domingo?
Majority of Bull Domingo probably would fall in District 3, which is myself.
Okay.
Yeah. I looked on that map. I thought the dividing line between those 2 districts was I don't know the name of that county road. Yeah, the loop that we've always called it Jones's Corner or the Hay Corner, or whatever that county road is. It really kind of lines up with that and goes north to the county line.
Were you here when Silver Cliff actually voted on marijuana? A year and a half ago, 2 years ago? Silver Cliff did something I thought was extremely, extremely brave. Instead of just their trustees for the town of Silver Cliff, they decided it was a big enough question, unlike West Cliff that voted out just the 8 or 6 trustees. Silver Cliff was very, very brave, and they said, this is too big an issue for us to decide on their own. And they put it out to the voters during their election. It was soundly defeated. So I think that was a mandate by at least the voters in Silver Cliff that the connotation from the county and West Cliff that they also agree with the managing groups, the commissioners and the trustees, that marijuana beyond what is mandated by the state is not something we choose to have, and we opted out. So I just wanted to give you an insight into Silver Cliff did have a vote on that.
Yeah, we'll just let Pueblo County develop instead of Custer County.
I'd like to back up just a minute to our commissioner items. I was remiss in bringing up a topic I wanted to at least throw out to you. I have been considering attending the National Association of Counties in Washington, D.C. When I looked at the inclusive dates of that conference, I found that it conflicted with our February 6th and 7th meetings. So rather than miss those two meetings, I think I'm going to pass on attending that conference this year, but certainly I would like to be involved in that next year. March, I'm sorry. I said that to Brenda the other day in the office, and she corrected me. March, yes, March. That conference runs March 2nd through the 7th, and I just don't feel comfortable with missing both of those meetings. So I think I'm going to take a pass on that this year, and certainly would like to look into that next year. Anything else? Other public comment?
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to say thank you for me for declaring this day as Ben Rusher Day. I knew both those boys since they were very young. I drove the school bus for several years, as you know, and I hauled them all over the state for basketball and wrestling and everything. So that was a loss to me personally also. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Appreciate that. I had a couple of people contact me concerning our proclamation day, and they weren't upset. They were surprised that we weren't including Weldon, and I had to explain to them that this day was about honoring Ben for his sacrifice. It wasn't about the loss of either one. It was about the sacrifice that Ben made for his brother. And when they understood that, they said, "Oh, got it. Didn't think about that." So
Yeah, I had a couple.
Yeah, well, I think whenever it's spoken about, Weldon will be included,
Remembered.
just because.
yeah,
So they'll not be forgotten.
no, that's right.
Well, we don't have to take up all the time that we normally do.
About what?
The meeting, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to wait,
I know, we're waiting till 10.
waiting and
Wait till
see
10.
if Eaton Sales shows up. So if there's no objections, we'll move into recess and we can take a break. The meeting is in recess until 10 o'clock.
Oh, that's Virginia. I guess. All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Jay Park.
Good morning, I'm Rand Densell.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Good
you.
morning.
Brian?
Jay Park. Nice to meet you, sir.
Bill Canada, another
Hi,
commissioner.
Bill.
Rand, you say?
Yes, I am.
And
Brian?
Brian. Rand and Brian.
Call the meeting back to order. It's 10:12 a.m. We have one item of business left, and that is a visit with the gentleman from Eaton Sales. So we have two gentlemen here. You may know both of them from the airport board, Alan Butler and our old buddy, the former chair, correct? So I don't know, do you gentlemen want to take the lead, or Mr. Clint, do you want to have the floor, or probably
Well,
would be appropriate?
And my involvement in it was that after we got Eaton for the installation of at the airport, there was an additional charge for troubleshooting because there'd been some problems with the operation of that fuel dispenser, and there was some question about the necessity or if there was fault, who was at fault for the necessity for the troubleshooting, let me put it that way. And Anderson about this. I sent a letter to Eaton, and Mr. Ansel responded. And I think what this board is going to need to do is hear both sides and do some fact finding as to what was told to Eaton at the time the negotiations were being made, and then decide, what position the board wants to take on paying that additional amount. We did pay the amount, the $8,850. That's been taken care of. So there's approximately $3,500. I'm not quite sure what the figure is. I don't have that number in front of me, but that's the number that's in dispute. So,
Okay.
and it's up to you whether you want to hear from them first as to what they say they were told, or whether you want to hear from, is Bob Jolly going to be here or not?
I was hoping so. Last time I talked to him, last Thursday, I think it was, he said he was planning on being here.
Should we have?
I think between the two of them, they can set the stage. Somebody needs to set the stage.
Okay, should we have them come up?
I would think so.
Be
If you
closer
gentlemen
as
are okay
well?
with that, certainly. And thank you for being here, both of you. I appreciate that. So turn the floor over to the Airport Advisory Committee.
Dallas, why don't you at least come up to the microphone, I guess, if that one's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, that way we're recording this meeting as we do all of them, so it'll just help with the recording. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Dallas Anderson. I don't believe we've met before.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, I'm Rand Ansell. This is Brian Powell. You've met with Brian.
Yeah, I met you
You've
last
met
year.
with me a couple
Yes.
of times.
It's been so long. I don't remember the dates. I have misplaced the paperwork that I kept for this project. So memory is not 100%. We sent out that request for bid first part of April last year. About 2 weeks after that, the fuel dispenser that we had, the old one, had a breakdown, and we asked Matt's Pump Service, he'd been working on it for us for the last few years, to come out and take a look. Well, he troubleshot it and determined that, for one thing, the counter valve went bad. Well, we told him that by the time he got through with his troubleshooting, we'd already gotten bid back from Eaton and the installation date. So we decided not to have that old one worked on and have it.
Dallas, can you explain 52 valve?
Well, it is in the plumbing of the system. It is the first valve just before the fuel goes into the dispenser itself. There's a valve out of the tank and nothing wrong with that. And then it allows the fuel to come through the plumbing. The pump in the dispenser is a suction type pump, so it pulls the fuel to that 52 valve. And so he advised us that he was pretty sure that thing was bad, and we told him we didn't want to work on it anymore. He said, be sure and tell the guys from Eaton when they get there that they should look at that 52 valve, because he was pretty sure it went bad.
It's an electric solenoid.
It's a solenoid valve. So the crew comes out with the new dispenser and all set to work and everything. And Bob Jolly, our vice chairman, Bob Custer, he's a mechanic in the county. He knows about fuel systems. And a guy named Bob Giacomelli, he had been involved in fuel systems in the Air Force. And the three of them talked to the guy that was the head of that crew. I forget his name. Nice guy though, I like him a lot.
From Eaton.
From Eaton,
Okay.
yes.
Make it clear, Dallas, they came to do what? Replace the pump or to replace?
Replace the dispenser. They,
Is the 52 valve part of that replacement, or is that a separate?
no, the 52 valve would have been, it wouldn't have nothing to do with the replacement of the dispenser.
Gotcha.
But it told the guy that's head of the crew that they should look at that 52 valve before they put the new dispenser on it, because Matt's Pump Service advised us that it was probably bad. And with us not being mechanics, we don't take things apart or anything. Well, the guy kind of poo-pooed that statement. He said, in effect, that those things never go bad. I've never seen a 52 valve go bad. And so they took out the old pump like they were supposed to, and installed the new dispenser. Did a lot of wiring and all that kind of stuff, and tried to start the pump, and the pump in the dispenser. Well, it wouldn't start, it wouldn't run. And so the electrician fiddled with the wiring a little while longer and got it to start to run, but it wouldn't pump fuel. And after just a little bit, the motor bogged down and popped circuit breakers. Well, it was late in the day, and they packed up and left. Almost a week later, I emailed Brian and to ask him when they were coming back. And about Wednesday or so of the next week, I got a note back from Brian, said they were going to be there the next week. And they were. And they brought two mechanics and the electrician, and they worked on it all day long. Finally got it to pump some fuel, but still didn't pop circuit breaker. Now from here into the future, since I don't have the records that I kept, I'm a little fuzzy. But there was a period there that I emailed Brian in the end of that week that they were there, did not get a response. I emailed him again about Tuesday of the next week, didn't get a response. Towards the end of that week, I emailed him and asked him when they were coming back. And if you remember, I kind of, in effect, I asked if they'd abandoned the project because it was running towards 3 weeks by then. And I don't remember, it was a day or two, I got a message back, said they did not abandon the project, that they were discussing the problem in the office. And then the next week, on I believe it was Tuesday, the electrician came out. And I helped him troubleshoot the whole electrical system from the breaker box out through the transformers to the dispenser. My basis for saying that I helped him troubleshoot that was that I was an electrical specialist in the Air Force, aircraft electrical, for 15 years. I worked for the post office as an industrial electrician, high voltage to 600 volts, for 4 years. So I have some background in electrical systems. We found that the electrical system supply, there was nothing wrong with it. And because it was popping the circuit breaker all the time, I mentioned to him, I said, why don't you just take the belt off the pulleys of the pump and the motor, see if the motor is the problem. Well, up to that time, we'd been using an ammeter to check power draw, and turned the pump on, and that motor was pulling 14 to 19 amps trying to start, and then it would draw up over 22 and pop circuit breaker. So we took the belt off the motor and pump unit, and the motor ran fine. On startup, that motor drew about 4 amps, settled down to 2.5 on run, and he ran that pump for 20 minutes on occasion. The power draw.
Dallas, what did you determine was the problem with the pump? The fuel dispenser, let me put it that way. Why was it not, what was the final issue?
Well, the pump unit in the new dispenser was bad. And ultimately that got replaced. And the last time they were out there, I was on vacation by then, and that was pre-planned for a year before. They took all the,
keep it in step, Dallas. You check the motor and then you check the pump
motor
itself. It wouldn't turn.
Turned the shaft in the pump unit, and it was all crackly. Hard to turn it. It was bound up something for. But anyway.
So they replaced the pump.
Replaced that. And
but not this valve, correct?
But they finally got to the valve and took the diaphragm out of it. Well, that helped some. They went back in there and took all the insides out of that valve, which didn't need that valve because of the new dispenser. Buttoned it all back up, and bingo, it worked fine at that point, and it's been working fine since.
What's the issue then with the money?
The issue, well, for me personally, I think there was way too many trips made and some not so, I don't want to be mean or anything, but less than adequate troubleshooting, I think.
So Dallas, the pump in the system that Eaton supplied was bad. They came out and replaced it. Correct?
About the third or fourth trip they replaced that.
Okay. And that certainly would be their responsibility since it's their car.
Well, that would have been a warranty anyway.
This valve that you found that was bad, was that part of the request for proposal? Should that have been their responsibility to check that and replace it if it was bad, or is that something?
Because that valve was bad after they responded to the bid request.
Did the bid request have checked the system, and meaning the entire system, or just the pump on the downflow side of the valve?
Well, I believe Brian has a copy of the bid request and the scope of work.
So I can touch on that. I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, that's a question. Go
Well,
Sure,
I can give you my involvement in this. I'm an estimator, salesman. So when I receive a bid,
Can I stop for a second? And I have a handout that I'd like to give each one of you. And what it is, it's a paper trail of everything that has occurred since the request for bid. So it's just all the documentation that we would have accumulated over this project. I think that should be enough for everybody. But there's. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
so my involvement when I receive a request for proposal, request for bid, is to visit the site, obtain as much information as I possibly can for not only myself and Rand, but our technicians that are coming on site. They don't like surprises. Nobody does. So I came out and I met with Dallas and we looked at the entire system, opened everything up. My construction foreman, Jim, who I believe Dallas is referring to, I make sure he sees it. I ask him, because I'm not a construction guy. I ask him, what are you going to need? What do I need to bid?
The questions I always ask that I was taught by Rand and Joe, the guy that trained me, you always ask if there's anything that we should know about, any issues that we need to know about. There is no point in coming out and replacing a suction pump or a dispenser if the existing one isn't going to work. It doesn't work to begin with.
Doesn't item 8 cover that?
We're verifying the proper operation of the new fuel.
Part of the scope of their
Right.
bid and project, why would we not take it upon ourselves to do one of two things? Either hire them to fix that valve as a separate expense, or hire, what was it, Mac Pro to do it. Why would we not have taken it upon ourselves if we knew it was bad?
Well, I suppose, well, I can't speak for anybody else, and I wish Bob Jolly were here. I know that we would have signed off on an extra charge for that, working on that valve.
Okay, so don't speculate.
I can't speculate.
Jay's got a good point.
Yeah.
What we need to get from here is, why did it cost $3,500 to troubleshoot? What did you troubleshoot after the fact? And the fact is, your pump was defective, and the original one, whatever the flywheel was bound up, and you had to replace it again, right? I mean, that was just a separate issue.
Well, let me say
But
this.
why did it cost that much? We need to understand what you actually did.
Okay, let's let.
About mid-July, Eaton stopped communicating with me. And all communications after that was with Bob Jolly.
Okay, all right. Anything else before we turn it forward to these
That's
gentlemen?
that's about it as I know
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly you'll be welcome to interject as we go
Okay.
along here. Gentlemen?
All right, let me just, first of all, let me apologize. I thought our meeting was at 10:30.
Oh.
So that's, we know you were early. But thank you for letting us come here and talk to you about this issue. The little background on 52PR valve, it's not a solenoid valve. It's a pressure regulating valve that used to be, years ago, used as a means of preventing siphon flow from above ground tanks. That's the purpose of that valve. They haven't been used in at least 25 years. The company that made those went out of business 15 years ago, about, I would say, and they were absorbed by another business within the industry 2 years now. At no point have I ever installed a 52 PR valve. They just haven't been used in a long time, because at some point people in the industry decided to start using other means of doing the same thing. One being is it has to have a shear valve underneath the dispenser. The 52 PR valve doesn't qualify as a shear valve. And then also solenoid valves are normally used for that purpose of preventing siphon flow or an anti-siphon flow valve at the tank. So the 52 PR valve is an old piece of equipment. Jim, who is our foreman for construction, he'd never seen one before, ever. So he didn't even know what the heck that was. And so it wasn't part of the scope of the work, and our guys are trained. And honestly, I don't know that Jim was ever told anything about it, and I'll get to that later. But he wouldn't have known what it even does. I'm the one that identified the 52 PR valve because I have seen them in the past, and I pointed out that maybe that would be a problem. And actually, once I identified that, and Bob Jolly and the other guy said, "Oh yeah, that was a bad thing." And Max Pump Service decided that was bad. I'm like, well, it would have been nice to know. So anyway, he'd never seen one, and I don't know much about them myself. That's no excuse, I guess. Ignorance is no excuse for not, knowing how to fix something. But the point is, it wasn't part of our scope of work. I don't know that Dallas emailed Brian. We never gave up on this job. When we had an electrician and one of our technicians down here, I think it was after the second or third time we were here, including the time that we installed the dispenser, the tank was almost out of fuel. And at that point, we weren't sure if we were having problems because the tank was out of fuel, or if we were still having problems with our pump. And so we instructed Dallas to please call us when you have fuel in the tank, and then we'll come back and we'll continue our troubleshooting. That's why there was a period of time where we weren't coming to the site. Whatever communication was going on, I apologize if that communication was dropped. We told him on the phone that we would call him, or that he should call us when they had fuel in the tank, and we would continue the troubleshooting and get the problem resolved. I never ever like going for change orders, and normally I will just absorb any extra costs unless it's so costly that I really can't. And on a small project like this, $8,000, there's not a lot of room there for me to play with, especially when you bid it competitively and there's not much of a margin in it either. So we went by the scope of work. That's what we did. We actually had written it basically. And our first invoice, I included that in the packet here. The pumping unit itself, I don't believe that it ever went bad. The one that we put in, I think it was having problems, and I think it was because of the restrictions that it was trying to overcome and all this troubleshooting that we were doing. So we may have worn out some of that, something in there. But the fact of the matter is, when we took the pumping unit out from the first dispenser that we installed, put in a new pumping unit, we still had the same problem. Okay, we got the pump, which is about a $2,000 pump. We got that covered under warranty though, so that was completely covered under warranty, not an issue in this discussion. And because I don't like extras, and Bob Jolly was, bless his soul, he was really good to work with. he worked with us back and forth, and he goes, let's just get through this together, and then we'll settle up in the end, you know, and that's what we agreed to do. I know that's probably not the way that I should have done it. You know, hindsight is 20/20. I know from being a construction project manager all these years that, you know, whenever you have an issue, you stop and say, wait, let's figure out what this is going to entail. And I didn't do that. So I'll take the blame for that. Now, there was more than just the PR valve that was bad. We also had to replace a solenoid valve on external to the dispenser that was existing because that wasn't opening up. And then we also had to replace a relay inside of the QT card reader, which was not part of our scope of work. So there were a number of problems.
Where was that solenoid valve? Was it toward the tank?
It was right next to the dispenser, mounted right next to the dispenser. Right on.
Is that something normally you do when you put a pump in, or is that something over and above?
I mean, we would assume that everything existing is working except for what we've been hired to replace, and that's what we have to assume. And we didn't mention anyway until I actually came down with Brian to figure out what was going on, and knowing that Dallas and probably the other guys are really mad at us because we had dropped the ball and not been here for a month when we thought we were waiting for them to tell us they were ready for us. So anyway, that's another, there's something else I wanted to clarify here. Okay, that. I tried to be as fair as possible. We billed you about $2,200 extra for the additional charges, and all I did is bill for 25 hours of labor at $70 an hour. And our normal rate at that time was $82 per hour, so I gave you a discounted rate. I also didn't charge for even half of the labor that was entailed in getting this whole system to work. And I itemized on this sheet right here, if I had billed out everything that we actually had into the job, it would have been an extra $6,725. So I absorbed all the other costs involved. And of course, the $67.25 would be with margin built in, of course, you know, normal margins. For like the electrician.
You didn't bill us for the solenoid valve?
I did not.
Okay, I think we already paid for that solenoid valve. Pardon me? I think that solenoid valve was already paid for.
Regardless of whether I had bought that solenoid valve for another job and did not use it, and then used it on your job, it does not matter. It was a cost that I had put out already. I had costs involved in that solenoid valve. Yes, it was sitting on our shelf.
So, are you saying, and please correct me if I'm not saying this properly, that the additional cost was not an Eaton problem, it was we had other problems in the system that included your pump to work properly?
That is correct.
Why were you not able to determine that before we're billed for $3,500? Is that not something that could have been found?
I guess if you had been a technician in the industry for over 25 years, you might have been able to figure it out quicker. I knew enough just to be dangerous. You know, I knew what it does. I know that, that they used to be used. I knew that they had diaphragms in them. And so what I determined, is that we should just gut that valve because it wasn't necessary to have it there anyway. Well, not knowing how that valve was totally built, we did gut it, we thought. Okay, we took the diaphragm out, we took the top portions of it out. We didn't realize there was another mirrored section of that below the parts that we took out. So there was another diaphragm in there restricting the flow. And I didn't realize that.
So, if there was if you came out instead of your technician, that $3,500, you might have noticed it much sooner, and the additional cost of $3,500 might have been less with someone more knowledgeable, like someone like yourself, who would have looked at it and said, oh, wait a minute, we don't need that, let's just bypass it, or whatever you have to do. So it sounds to me like maybe we ought to come up with some kind of compromise here. I mean, it sounds to me, we have liability here, it appears to me, and I'm speaking for myself now, not the other commissioners, because we had other issues that were beyond the scope of this. Your folks came out multiple times to try and fix it. I recognize there's discrepancy as to you didn't respond in a timely manner, and then the other side of that story is we were waiting for you to tell us you had enough fuel so we could use it. I understand that completely, that it's either a miscommunication or whatever. I'm not even going there, it doesn't matter. But the point is, you came out multiple times to fix something that wasn't your problem, but had you brought the right person out in the first place, the first time they might have said, well, here's the problem, it's not our issue, get that changed and we'll be in good shape. So it seems to me like we both have some culpability here, and what I would love to see is maybe we can compromise something that would be reasonable. And I'm speaking for myself, right? I'm not speaking for the other commissioners. That's kind of how I feel.
Can you help clarify a few things for me? We have paid eating sales $8,850 to date.
Right.
Okay. And the original bid, I'm looking, just trying to skim through this. I see $11,100. Was that the original bid plus the additional expense occurred?
Yes.
So the total bill from you would have been $11,100.
Right.
Okay. And then I go back to this page on the back side, gentlemen, with the, the amounts invoiced to Custer County. That was after the $8,850. Subsequent to $8,850, this page right there. So
No.
the $2,250.
The $2,250 is the additional cost.
Yeah, after, not including the $8,850.
Right.
Okay.
So you take the $8,850 and the $2,250.
And you come up 11 more.
Yeah,
Okay.
11 more.
And then I also saw that you had reduced your labor rate by $12 an hour, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then 25 hours of travel time and time on the job, is that okay?
So picking up on that, just to be clear, because we've been hearing 3,300 or whatever is some number two. The actual difference that you want, or you bill us, is the 2,250.
Correct.
That's it, above the 88, it's not 3,000, whatever. Okay. So we're arguing over the 2,000 now. Jake pointed out a compromise maybe on that. But that's something we can talk about.
Well, and the way I look at it is, number one, I do believe that regardless of the timeline of which both of the parties have talked about, the influencing factors there, I personally believe from what I've looked at here that you performed the work within the scope of work that you bid originally. Is that a reasonable statement? I mean, we asked them to replace the dispenser. They did that. True?
True.
Okay. That's what the 8850 was for.
Right.
Did you replace the PR valve, or did you do away with that?
We did away with it.
Or repair it? Okay.
But if I
The
can,
52 PR valve was just gutted.
Okay.
Still in line, it's just empty.
Right. It's just
Non-functioning. Okay.
Commissioner, I agree completely with what you're saying. They did what the scope of the business was. But the purpose of it was to have a fuel dispenser that the airport could use to dispense fuel, obviously. It wasn't working. So we had to assume what was changed with board, we pump in, and for whatever reason it wasn't working. Come to find out, after extensive trips and additional expense, come to find out it was something that we did, not them. However, with their expertise, I feel they could have said to us, hey, wait a minute, we did what we're supposed to, but the reason it's not dispensing is because then they tell us, this is your problem, fix it, it's not part of the scope. So the multiple trips back and forth, in my opinion, was excessive if we had someone who could have looked at it the first trip and said, whoa, I see the problem here, it's the pyramid. So, yes, they did the scope of the work, but the purpose of it was to put in a fuel dispenser that dispenses fuel. I get it that if there's no fuel in the tank, it's gonna be hard to check. I understand that completely. So I think, I'll stick with my statement, I feel both sides have some culpability here, and maybe if we decide, I mean, I don't know if you're willing to discuss a compromise, I don't know if you are or not, that's certainly up to you, but I would certainly entertain maybe splitting it or something like that. Dallas, go ahead.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that misapprehension, if you, I guess that's the right word, that we had no fuel. And I got an email to that effect, and I emailed right back, said, no, we've never been out of fuel. We were never less than 500 gallons in the tank through that whole ordeal. So I don't know where that we were out of fuel thing came from.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to know who it was that said that.
Where I was headed with, I guess I was just after clarification that the $8,850 for replacing the dispenser, we're good with that. That's really not part of the discussion that we're here today to talk about.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, I kind of concur with Commissioner Prince. It would be nice to strike some kind of an agreement, totally with respect that you discounted your labor rate and obviously discounted the number of hours that you would have normally billed. Is that true?
Absolutely.
When did you tell, have you ever told the airport guys that have they ever seen this, what it would have cost? None. All I've ever heard is we're going to charge it $3,000 more. I mean, that's the number I heard at some other meetings. But we already see that it's really $2,200. It seems that you've already made a big compromise of some kind, but we never were aware of it.
Well, it's actually in the invoice. Let's see. We believe I itemized that.
You showed up would have, and here's what we will do.
No, but I did point out that we were discounting it.
Yeah, first page here.
The first
You just said you didn't, but that
So
didn't give them any clue what that amount was.
So you've got install, and then the electrician extra charges is $500.
It goes with the bill.
That would be this page here.
Page
First
one.
Yeah, page one.
It's actually the second page of
It's about three quarters of the way down there. In our narrative there, it does show exactly what I'm speaking about, our additional labor, and then the additional labor at no charge. So I believe you have 1750 and 500, it's 2250, correct? So that's where we're at there.
Now, how are they going to resolve it?
Yeah, I guess.
No, can I just point out something else too? On the very end of this packet, I included some additional work that we did it after all of this, after the letters were exchanged and everything. And it was just we got a call that the system wasn't working properly. You never saw this. You never saw this invoice. We never sent you anything showing you that this is what our costs which were incurred. We just took it internally and zeroed out the invoice. We're like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Try to collect this. But anyway, so it was 13.25 hours, and then mileage that went into this troubleshooting and repair of a problem that was not even part of the dispenser. It was the QT card reader. We just fixed it, didn't invoice you, and that would have been $1,100.
So can I ask, what do you think is a fair compromise? What do you think we should do? How are we going to resolve this? Tell me what you think.
My offer is already, again, the $2,250. I think that's more than fair. I've absorbed a huge amount of costs. I'll lose money no matter what. If you pay me $2,250 extra, I've lost money. So
this is not why we're here. We're not here to.
No, and
we're the custodians of tax dollars. We're very concerned about spending them if we don't need to.
Right.
And so we're very concerned about it. We're not. I mean, if I had to sit here and talk about every $2,000 bill that came in, I'll have gray hair when I read it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But the question was brought to us was, wait a minute, we don't feel we owe it because you fell down on your job. Listen to the other side of this. Wait a minute, there's two sides to every story. We always know that. And maybe what you're saying, the $2,200 is fair. I mean, based on what you have already given in, that you haven't charged for. I still would like to feel that had someone come out the first time who had more experience, some of this expense would not have been here. I don't think that's our responsibility. I think we didn't send the right technician out.
I don't have a technician who's ever been exposed to one of those.
I understand that. You told me it was 15 years since the last one was put in. So, yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you, Jay. However, I also see a communication problem on both sides. You both. I mean, I think if you have clearly told these guys what you did and what you did absorb, and this was actually the actual cost, I don't know that we would have been arguing, and they might have come up with a well, okay, they hadn't met us more than halfway or whatever, and would have recommended to us something maybe different. Mm-hmm. So now it just kind of escalated. Both of your communications have caused the problem over wasting a lot of taxpayer money sitting here worrying about it. Mm-hmm. You know? So,
well, obviously, it looks like you come to the table with basically a 33% proposal. You're asking for about a third of what normally would have been there. $6,700, $4,500, $4,525 difference.
93 cents.
So I personally feel as a commissioner that, number one, you did work within your scope, and that, I think we're all in agreement with that. Obviously, we were led down a road where you had other issues that you never did that, it wasn't in your scope of work. I feel like you come to the table with a fair amount. I'm going to move that the commissioners pay the $2,250, and thank you for the work that you did do and your patience and understanding and being willing to come to us.
Can I just add one thing too? Just
yes.
Where we're at right now with your suction pump over there.
Yes.
We do, and I'm not trying to
more to spend.
I'm going to say that. I'll be the bearer of bad news.
And we did tell the guys at the airport, especially Bob Kelly, about this.
So that valve underneath is gutted. There's nothing to stop. Okay, let me digress. If a car, a vehicle, an airplane were to hit that dispenser,
no shear valve.
There's no shear valve. Right. So that does need to be replaced to be brought up to current regulations. So I just want to make you guys aware that that does need to be replaced. So there's no
issue. You know that it's on the record.
Gentlemen, any further discussion on the motion?
No.
Friends, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of paying $2,250 to Eaton Sales to settle our account with them, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Again, thank you, number one, for being willing to come.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And thanks for coming and explaining your side. Not that we didn't hear, I mean, we only hear one side.
Right.
I appreciate you coming down, discussing with it, explaining what was going on. We've heard drips and drabs over the last few months, and getting a much broader picture was very helpful to us. I appreciate you coming down and discussing. Thank you.
I also want to thank the airport board guys.
Absolutely.
Because they did put a lot of work in this, and they did try to explain it best they could. So.
Go ahead, sir.
Can I close this out? And the reason we came to this point today is when we received the invoice from Eaton, and as I remember, the extra charges were like $3,400 over, and I presented that to the commission at the time, it was before this board sat, and one of the members of the commission looked at that and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I explained that there was multiple trips and troubleshooting and all that ran the bill up because of the amount of the bill and because it was Custer County CIP. It was the commissioner's approval to pay that to pay that bill. And one of the commissioners balked on it, and that's how we got to where we are today.
Dale, I was sitting there and I remember that, and you're 100% correct. The reason the commission at the time was opposed to it because we were under the assumption that they're charging us extra to fix a problem that, because the pump wasn't working, that it was something they did not do appropriately. And it took a while to determine that. I don't think we're talking about enough money here to really argue about.
Yeah.
I think your airport board did a wonderful job. You brought us the issue to us. Today we learned more information, and based on that, I think we made the decision we made. So I appreciate what you guys have done.
I'm glad the whole thing is settled myself. But as you remember, I tried to explain to the commissioners back then that that valve was not part of the bid, and it took a while to talk somebody into digging into it. So,
I agree.
Anyway,
Ms. Brenda, are we okay? Should we ask Eaton to re-invoice, or do we have an invoice? Because I kept hearing $33.50, so
Yeah, I did too. So where is that invoice? You didn't ever send us anything? So you need to send us that. We'll pay it.
Well,
$22.50.
Yeah, and
Because that's what
if
we
you
the
did.
can give
22.50.
that to me, like, real shortly, we can do a handwritten check.
Got it here.
Get it,
I'll be able to use it.
like, soon.
Yeah, you paid $88.50 on this invoice already, and so you just need to pay the balance.
Okay.
So it's just another payment on the same
Yes,
invoice.
that's
You did it that way?
I'll have to go back and, do you have the invoice? Do you have the original or no? Because I'll have to go back and dig out our.
no,
Dawn would have.
Jack Decker has the original. Well, yeah, you have a copy of the
They got it.
original.
Yeah, I'll just take a copy of that.
It's got it.
Okay, page 2,
Just, this is the invoice.
second page back.
Because normally our regular checks.
So here's the invoice right here.
Okay.
So this is the one that you paid $88.50.
Yes, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries, meeting adjourned. 11:58. 10:58, sorry.